Jojo dreams of mysteries untold, of the woman who lived in the stories of old. Maria, oh Maria, with eyes like stars so bright, guiding through darkness into the light. He hears her whispers in the moon's soft glow. In the secrets of the wind, her voice seems to flow. Maria Orsic, the world changer unseen. In Jojo's heart, you become his queen. Maria, Maria, rise from the past. With Jojo beside you, his legacy will last. Changing the world one heart at a time. In his dreams, here's your rhyme. She speaks of love, of unity and peace, of a future where wars and divide cease. Maria, guiding Jojo's heart so true, with a vision of a world that feels brand new. She came with wisdom, timeless and strong, telling Jojo the world we all get along. With every word, she lights his way. Maria, Maria, rise from the past. With Jojo beside you, your legacy will last. Changing the world one heart at a time. In his dreams, he is your rhyme. Through the veil of time, her spirit shines, helping Jojo see the world's inside. She shows him how love can break every chain, turning his sorrow into hope again. So here's to Maria, the mother of dreams, hope and love for the human race. Maria, Maria, forever stay in Jojo's heart, you're guiding his way. With visions of light and the world reborn, he carries your spirit from dusk till dawn. We're changing the world one heart at a time. In his dreams, he is your rhyme. For Jojo, a heart so true, with Maria Orsic guiding him through. Changing the world in her name, he holds her lights, igniting the flame.
Big Om Namah Mama Maria Lord Lu Shiva Allah Lu Ja Shija Dana, Queen of our souls, Queen Diana. Thanks and praise and the biggest, most sincere respect. Yes. Because it just comes down to, I like how you vibrate. All animal instincts aside, what distinguishes us from animals? I know for a fact I did not evolve from an animal. The real story, and I take a pause, the real story is the first human race was much bigger than us and much healthier than us, but they destroyed themselves. They built the pyramids and all the other pyramids around the earth and the whole universal religion of astrology, frequency, vibration, which summed up in one word is science. Not your boring, dorky universities of Missouri, the United States of Israel. Not that boring shit. The science of facts, of reality, who, what, where, why, and when. Human beings, animals, and plants are the story of the questions. And after that destruction, or did I skip a step. Let's just call them giants. They were not, well, I don't know if I should say that. I could say this. They did not argue about spiritual matters or religion because they had the scientific facts. Anyone who researches knows the previous advanced civilization was smarter than us. How does that make sense if we're monkeys? Of course it doesn't make sense, and that is all part of the Aleister Crowley Process Church Golden Dawn OTO polarity magic to trap you into the God, Satan, Jew, Aryan, black and white. All of the false polarity that you're looking at is created by 666 the Beast, the second Messiah, Aleister Crowley. And after they giants, they populated the world, and they had no scientific origin story because it kept going back to the sun, and that everything has always existed on these other planes. So when they thought that they were created by someone, when they sought out the scientific facts, they realized that they existed on a spiritual plane long before the physical plane, and that DNA was a individual vibration contained in the physical cells that were the as above below, the below to the astral essence of each individual person. And after the giants had a world war of their own that ended in global nuclear war, and like the end of these things are so scary that I am told from another plane the powerful magicians helped the rest of humanity die quickly and easily, and everything that I'm saying is being repeated as we speak on purpose, because magic is the manipulation of natural energy, and the most important natural energy in a simulation would be your unconscious. So because you're in a simulation where your memory is being blocked, the black magicians, this is their major focal point. This is the hinge on which the door of your soul flies open. But remember, it's just an illusion and it's not real. Never lose the context. Never lose the premise, the starting point. Where did Maria start teaching me? You can't remember who you are. You need me to help you. And you can't remember who you are because you're in technology that blocks your memory. Your memory of your conscious physical life lies dormant in your unconscious. This is exactly the tip of the spear of the Bible. It's playing on the unconscious of white Europeans. And I'll just throw it out there very quickly. It's all based on the physical sun in the sky, and that your individual essence, your individual light, is a metaphor because both mysteriously, unexplainably have always existed. That's what eternity means. No creation, no end. And as Maria explained to me, the people who are being punished on Venus by sentence of life imprisonment in the Matrix have clearly figured out what's going on and have become the absolute experts at using technology to speak to your unconscious, and trigger the deepest emotions, which trigger thoughts which you believe are your true self, but they're a counterfeit. Carefully designed, just like you would block with a firewall and design a back door. Your unconscious is the back door to controlling every last thought you think, because you think that you are thinking them. Not to mention how deeply our communications back home on Venus involve hand signs, sort of like the, deaf people use. Because believe it or not, we have places that respect silence, which brings to mind Miguel Serrano's brother, comrade, the brother of silence, who taught more in silence than speaking. People would just come in and sit around him and learn, realize, remember, recover, and return to frequency states of mind, attitudes, you might call them, without any words being spoken, and that's very much like Maria, whom I was with last night. She was wearing the cutest little shorts and shirt, which were white, purple, black, with Vril sign that it was like matching, and the Vril sign went through the entire little outfit. Again, incredible beauty. And Miss Diana, one with Lord Lucifer Shiva, also hail to you, hail to them, respect and love, peace and Vril to you, Maria, Donna, and Lou. Why, people ask, you have to be so crazy. And when this started in August of 2011, I asked Maria, and she said, well, this was all planned before you came to the simulation, to the hologram. Because, she said, this is my work, not my art, my work. My work as a spiritual teacher. I magically heal victims of the matrix, of the hologram. As she said, sometimes it's far more than a person ever imagined, because things are left to chance and random and luck. Is it really luck in a simulation? We're going to go straight there to those questions. And I asked her, but I don't understand. This sounds far too important for me. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough to explain your religion. And this is when I thought, I just knew her as the Missouri River Goddess, and I thought she was so powerful and beautiful. I thought she was like, who knew? I didn't know. Like when she said, I lived on Earth in World War II, like for like an hour. I couldn't think of anything else, but I can't believe that. That's crazy. That's so crazy. Because I knew her only as this magical goddess woman who dyed her hair. For real. Because I was, and I'll take a little side road here to give you some Maria personality. I was with her in a ritual, and she said to me, to help you prove that all of this is actually as I say, I will give you a dream constructed, and like she said to me, this is my art. It's kind of like Saturday Night Live, but the polarity switch. It's a comedy, but in a most dreadful, serious way. And I'll show you how she was predicting the future of the Matrix, which she did at least 500 times absolutely correctly. And these things I spoke to witnesses, but I will tell you, American individualism has over individualized people, and no one cares. They're like, I don't care. I'm going to do things my way. I'm going to sit here and waste my life. Don't dare try to tell me, something different than comfort and leisure and vacation forever. And the nicest shit, of course, at any means, by any means necessary. By any means necessary. And it comes to my mind that this was the ritual where it began with me in my cat's body, running. I live like maybe 100 yards from the bluffs leading down to the Missouri River. So all my cats go down to the river. It's just two houses over. 2 houses and 1 street. Like I walk 2 houses down from my house and I can see the river. And I drink the mushrooms and just click, and I'm running along the ground like my face is 4 inches above the ground, and I am hauling ass very skillfully, going through trees, it's like thick woods, and it was like exhilarating. It was awesome. I felt so great, so free. I mean, brothers and sisters whom I love, we have way too much stress and worry to be in a simulation. Stop, please. Let's help each other. Let's encourage each other. Stop stressing and worrying. And it's good to mourn over the principles that are thrown in the garbage and laughed at in America. But it's not good to be stuck anywhere, because ultimately what you're seeing is true. This is really what would happen. That's why it sucks so bad. We know the human race sucks. We will, too many people will stand by while the rich and powerful murder, torture, and just cause the worst vibrations for all of us. Like, it makes no sense. We are all one in that we're energy, and when we all as one allow a small minority to crush thousands of, millions essentially of people, like America killed millions of innocent people over a fake terrorist attack that they themselves committed. Let's dwell on how ridiculous that is. Let me say it this way. We all know we did not get the truth. How long? How long? How long are we gonna accept we were dumb from our enemies as they rape, kill, and destroy? And when they say that, oh, they did this, and we say, but you were in charge, they say, they fooled us, we were dumb, we fucked up. How long are we going to accept that? Forever? And sad to say, I am here as Maria's student to tell you that is the final conclusion for the masses, that their answer was, we don't care. And as a living witness today, in November of 2024, the only people who care that poor, innocent women and children are being burnt alive by United States of America bombs are Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Yemen, the great Yemen, Yaman. Bless you, Yemen. Thank you. Iran, the great lion, the Persian lion. And I know people may care, but what is the use if we don't do something, if we're not one enough to do something? And maybe I should tell, the COVID story. Well, there's no real political party, obviously. But first, let me finish the dream. And as I was saying, I was in my cat's body, and I ran up to her, and she had all her blonde hair blocking her face like a veil. And she told, as I said, she said, I'll give you a dream. And it was funny because it sort of repeated the ritual, and this was like 3 days later. I had an incredible dream because she's an incredible artist. And I'll just tell the dream. Of course, I had absolutely no idea I was dreaming. And I got up in the middle of the night, and because I thought I heard someone in my kitchen. And when I went out there, there was a obvious stranger in my kitchen just standing there. And we looked at each other and it was like a frozen moment for a second. And I guess it shocked me so bad that it like flashed in my mind, because I thought this was real. I thought someone like broke in my house. And it flashed in my mind this like nice looking young business woman holding like a briefcase, and a nice looking young businessman standing right by the door. And like in a flash, my mind met their minds. And they said, "We're here from the Missouri River Goddess and don't have any worries. Just do as we say." Like that, all transmitted in like a flashing moment. And I looked back at him, and he looked at the door, and it was like my mind met his, and I said, "Yeah, you better just run for the door." And he ran for the door, and I let him leave. I let him open the door and run out. But as he ran out, I heard and seen again a flash of the two young business people. Yeah, I guess they were there to take care of business, because listen what they said. They said, let him go and then chase him down to by the shore of the river, and we will take care of him by getting rid of him completely. And I was like, okay. And he fumbled with my like screen door and finally got it open. I just kind of stood there for like a second, and he took off, and I took off after him, but I was catching up to him too fast, so I would let him go. And we ran past my mother-in-law's house, which, you know, is backs up to the bluffs to the river. And as we went, through her backyard, that's the woods to the river. And I'm running down these stairs, and I hear in my head, Joe, look, I'm over here. And I just stopped and looked, and she was dressed just the same in this like beautiful white gown, and looked just the same, except she had obvious dyed red hair. And I ran over to her, and the first thing I said is, "Your hair." And she said, "Hey, can't the goddess dye her hair? Is there any rules here?" And she looked up at my mother-in-law's bedroom, who had the same color hair. And she said, she kind of looked like, "Come on, this is a clue for you." And I said, what? And she said, "If you can understand what I mean, I have been her at times, at moments." I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Joe, you're in technology. Part of the magic of being a goddess is the ability to communicate with someone's true self and get the permission and actual want to switch bodies. It's what we call fun. And I went, wow, that's fucking interesting. And right at this time, all of a sudden I heard like, like, and I went, oh my God, those two. And she went, yeah, they took care of them. And me and her walked, and this connects to previous talks, but I want to say very quickly about that man in my kitchen. When I initiated our Vril sister Amy, Maria was like standing right there by her, and she said, she's not going to understand this, but you have to say it anyway. The man in the dream is her current husband, but her true love husband, who died when he was much younger, hates him, and I'm doing him a favor, and I am guaranteeing you, Joe, putting my word on it, I'm getting rid of him to protect Amy. And I was trying to communicate this to her. It was hard. And it did come true, absolutely. Which is very interesting. Like, I talked to Maria and Sigrun. Both brought me to my Vril sister's husband, who passed away, many years ago now. And it was so strange. And he told me, because he looked familiar, it all felt familiar, but we're in this technology, and I could not, like Maria said, Joe, having a memory of the future, that's technically what it is against all odds. It's like you're stuck in a video game playing against the laws of the code of the video game. And only magic, only the manipulation of it works. That is what magic is. You're in a computer-like technology, and if you want to manipulate it to get yourself out of here, you have to use concentration, imagination, and meditation. Or you could say imagination is concentration and meditation. Do you hear me? Imagination, concentration, and meditation. And I'm not talking about a half hour a day forced meditation. I'm talking about a miraculous vibration that you drop everything at that moment and realize or remember, right? And also, you never, ever give up the practice that has given you results, right? Why do I do this every week? because in the beginning it worked. And in the beginning it was scary at times. At times I would say, Maria, where are you? Why can't I hear you? And then I would remember her saying, when you can't hear me, you're just going to have to endure. Because I will say, I am not trained shaman in any way. Only trained by Maria. And only like 3 rituals into it, she was like, I know this is going to be hard on you, but I believe you can do it. And I believe in our connection that you will be able to hear my voice. But she said, Joe, when you initiate someone, you're going to pull out all the bad energy out of them from all the predators, all the people who did them wrong, all the people that hurt them. It's kind of going to come on you. And you're going to have to learn how to release it. You're going to have to learn how to just endure feeling terrible. And like most of the time when I initiated someone after they went home, or, I could do nothing but sit and cry for them, because we're all suffering far more than we want people to know, because we're in a war with real enemies and we don't want to show weakness. Or show, I shouldn't even say that, we don't want to be weak, because we know that loses in an illusionary video game. And I will continue. Maybe I'll end with this. As I was with Maria the other day, she didn't say this, but it's like I picked it up from her. When I was really at my lowest vibrational depression, just absolute hopelessness had completely taken over me. And this was like 6 months after converting into Christianity. And you'll find this with a lot of people, man. It's not good. It's a nightmare. You're plunged into a living scientific nightmare because you believe all this hocus pocus, all powerful, there's only this way, and it is grinding against your individual essence. It kills a person like me. And I thought it was, I thought I had to endure that to be healed. That's the polarity trick of religious Christian, deep spirituality. Joyce Meyer, faith healer. I'm reading this book going, why can't I be healed? And just suffering and not knowing, not even having a clue that things were getting worse. And in my very low vibrational state, I had a friend named Nina that we would talk and tell each other the dreams that we were having, because as Christians we were trying to figure out, like, is this from God? Is this from the Holy Spirit? You know, that kind of nonsense. And it really is nonsense. But it's a nonsense out of desperation. You know, don't forget that. I mean, how are you going to live with, you were born, you're not even born, you were conceived in sin. Side note there that making love is a sin. Really? I mean, they love to tell you that what you love is wrong and is worthy of guilt. You know, and this is where these bad vibrations were coming from for me. Absolutely. I took it. I was taught and told to take it literal, and I took it literal. And I could not understand why people who weren't seem to be more blessed than me. You know, when you're in the middle of Christianity, it's so easy to point at other Christians and go, yeah, they're crazy. And, you know, we're normal Christians compared to those fucking people. For real, it's a terrible, terrible, horrific culture. A culture of death and torture. God killed his son. Abraham would kill his son. That's what it's based on. Violence. It's based on hurting other people. You know, taking pleasure from that is not good. And in the midst of this terrible time of mine, I had this dream. I had absolutely, I'm looking, you know, I had lost my mind and threw away like hundreds of CDs because I thought and vinyl records and all kinds of shit, because I was so desperate. I thought I was being told by people, like, all that music's demonic and that's why you're sick, and that, you know, you need to get all of that away from you, get it out of your house. And I tried anything. I got everything out of my house, and I was so confused. I couldn't tell if it made things better or worse. I was that low of a vibration. I could not distinguish my feelings from real, factual truth. Because the Bible interprets reality for Christians. See, God is sovereign. He's causing every fucking action, every thought that you think. That's what the Bible says. And don't tell me about free will, because there's a million other verses that say that he is actually God. You know, and maybe one day I'll get into how that is actually Lord Lucifer, Shiva, in the simulation only. Lu is a man, but you may be surprised at how powerful one man can be through writing, music, movies. You're looking at people who are the reflection of TV shows, movies. They long to imitate their favorite things, I went through that, but I also had a moment, and I'll tell the dream after this. I had a moment as a Christian. I would take 1 hour a day and either meditate on the Lord or pray or speak in tongues. And one day a man's voice clearly spoke to me. And I think it was my true self, or maybe it was Lou, said to me, "Stand up. You cannot be anyone else but yourself. You cannot imitate your way through spirituality. From right now, you must pray original prayers. You must think original thoughts about all the bullshit that I believed at that time." But a point was being made to me that if you're going to get on with your life, you have to be an individual, no matter what religion you believe. It went beyond religion, actually. And I guess I probably thought it was the Holy Spirit at the time, And you have every right to be like, well, you were retarded, so why should we listen to you now? Well, the whole story includes why I had to be a Rastafarian and a Christian to be speaking to you today. Because in a simulation, when you really meet the true God of the simulation, Lord Lucifer Shiva, you will know that I'm going home, which means all things in this round did work together for me, who loved and does love and will always love my brother, my father, my dear, dear friend, teacher, God, a God to me, Lord Louis, St. Louis. We love you, St. Louis. Not the French guy, the real St. Louis. The real St. Louis. And, the reason I mentioned those CDs is I tried to get into Christian music, or I did, find some Christian music that was even, for a Christian, it was okay, I guess. And I went to sleep and had this dream. I was at a full-blown Christian rock and roll show, full lights, black leather. It was like White Sabbath instead of Black Sabbath or something. You know what I mean? It was really dark, heavy metal, but it was Christian, which kind of made me smile at the time. And this is no lie. I mean, may Maria fucking strike me dead if I would fucking lie about this. I am completely, totally oblivious that I'm dreaming. And I'm trying to get into this music, It's heavy metal, he died for me, he's on it. took away my sins. I wish I could do it right, but it was dramatically Hollywood rock and roll, or heavy metal. And I started looking around the crowd, and standing right next to me was Maria Orsic. And she had sort of that Vril uniform on that she has in the one picture. It was light blue, of course, and it was like a jacket. It was kind of military style cut jacket and a well fitted skirt down a little past her knees. Very sort of World War II-ish. I looked at her, and she had all this hair in a ponytail and a braid. It went, down to her waist at least, which meant it was probably down to her ankles or so. But anyway, of course, she completely caught my eye. And my first thought was, how the fuck did I not notice this girl? And she looked like she was 20. And I guess I was 30 at the time. This was like 2002, 3, maybe 2004, maybe even. I don't know. Around there, it was so bad of a time, and I was very sick. I can only remember the dreams sometimes. And me and the woman's eyes met. And I looked away like, I'm not staring at you because you're pretty. But I looked at her clothes again, and I looked back at her, and she was looking at me. And and when our eyes met this time, she smiled. And a few songs went by again, and I looked at her, and she was looking right at me, and she smiled again, and she nodded with her head, like, come with me. And she reached out and took my hand, and we walked out, and she said, I don't really like that. Do I know you? And I said, yeah, I wasn't really liking that either. And she said, I feel like I know you. And I said, I don't know. I said, but I sure didn't notice you. I like your clothes and stuff. And she said, I know, I noticed you too. She said, I think we should go outside and talk about why we don't like this. And we went outside. This is no lie. It was a church. And when we went outside, there was a clothing rack right outside of the door of the church, like you would hang coats on. But there was one set of clothing, like a shirt and pants, hanging on these hangers on this rolling coat rack, clothes rack. And she had my hand, and when she stopped, she said, look at that. And the rack with the one set of clothing started rolling down the sidewalk of the church and into the parking lot, and it started rolling down the parking lot away from the cars. And she took my hand again, and she said, hey, I know that I know you. And she said, you know why? I said, no. And she said, everything happens for a reason. Isn't that right? And I said, yeah, I believe that. And she said, the reason that happened is that those clothes on that rack that's rolling away is the fake you and it's going to roll away and leave the authentic you. She said, how do you like that for a prophecy? And she smiled and I laughed. And I said, yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's good. I said, for real. I want to be real. I want that, what you just said. And she said, it's granted to you. She said, hey, I'm not, she said, I know you're married. I'm not being suggestive or seductive. I just want to talk is all I want to do. She said, but I only live a short way from here, and my car is right there. Would you like to just go to my house and I could make us a cup of coffee and we could talk about the Bible and all of this? And I said, yeah, that would be awesome. And me and her got into a dark gray, like charcoal gray SUV, like a smaller SUV. I barely even knew what that meant at the time. You know, they were kind of, I guess they weren't just coming up, but they were like, I guess, more accessible for middle class people in like 2001 or 2 or whatever that was. It wasn't, I later found out why that vehicle was chosen by her, the artist, to prove to me that I knew someone before I came here. And so that I could approach that person and tell that person I had a dream of the car that you presently have, uh, you know, 5 years before you had bought the car. And I did tell that girl, whose name was Deanna. And she just looked like, I've never had anyone say something so weird. And I said, the reason why that could be true, this is why I told Deanna. I said, I have a goddess. I said, I don't practice like a normal religion. I worship I follow the Missouri River goddess, who is a ancient goddess of Persia. Talking about Donna and Maria, who are one. And she was like, huh. And I said, well, I know this sounds strange, but her way of proving to me that she's a goddess involved you. And she was like, oh, really? I said, yeah, it had something to do with your car. I said, like 5 years before I met you, I had a dream about your car. And my goddess said, the reason you bought that car that I dreamed about years before you bought is because I knew you before we came here. She said, huh. And I said, and she also asked me to tell you that your life has repeated more than once, and you are not living the things you're living right now. This is not the first time you've lived them, and that's why you have deja vu about things. And she said, huh. And yeah. But back to Maria and her dream. So me and her got in the SUV and we drove to her house. And this happened. She said, would you mind helping me carry in some water from my trunk. And I said, no, yeah, that's fine. And when she popped open the trunk, and we both like leaned in to grab like a case of water, our faces like kind of came close, and I felt like an energy like come off of her face, and like in my mind I went, who are you? And in the dream I seen her face like she heard me, and she like smiled like I did. And as we were walking into her house, um, she was talking to me and saying, I have a very, very special cat, and she's going to come to the door because she loves to meet new people. She said, I just want to tell you that because I know her so well. She'll be waiting as I open the door, no matter where she is in the house. She'll be waiting right there. And when she unlocked the door and pushed the door open, the little cat, a gray, black, and white cat with blue eyes, popped its head out of the door of the house. And when I seen the face, I went, in my mind, I went, the face is as pretty as yours. And I heard her voice in my mind say, well, thank you. And it was so powerful because I had never telepathically communicated with anyone. It was so powerful. I was like, oh, I just telepathically communicated, and it exploded in my mind and woke me out of the dream. And so, like I said, that was like 2002 or so. So 9 years later, in 2011, she said to me, now you go tell Deanna about the vehicle, because that's the exact vehicle that Deanna had at that time in 2011. But I dreamed about it in 2002, and that's why it looked like different, for real. Because I was like, wow, that's a different car. When she was like, that's my car in the church parking lot, I was like, wow, that's different, like you, because she was dressed so different and just looked sort of like Sleeping Beauty. I mean, not Sleeping Beauty, but Hansel and Gretel, let down your hair. For real, I thought that. You are the let down your hair lady, like you could save me with that long hair. And when I was looking at her white stockings and black, like 1930s looking small heels that kind of covered her whole feet, and this tight light blue military sort of navy. Of course, she's the water goddess, with this matching military style jacket. I was like, who is this original looking woman in a Christian concert? And so 2011, when I did the ritual, and she said, I'm going to prove to you, this stuff about knowing people before you came here. She said, I'm going to give you, she said, okay, I'm out of my body in the mushroom ritual. And she said, first of all, tell Deanna that's her car in 2002. I created this dream because I know the future. I'm the goddess of the Missouri River. And the cat, gray, black, and white with blue eyes, is her female cat, right? And she said, and then, Joe, when you go back to your body, don't say anything to Deanna until I give you a dream about her. And then after the dream about her, go to her and tell her the whole thing. So after like 3 days or so, or, it might even have been a whole week, I had this dream. In the dream, it seemed like it began with me knocking at Deanna's door. And I don't even know her house, but I know that I'm knocking on her door. And she answers the door and she goes, oh, I'm so glad you came here to get a kitten. I'm so glad you really showed up. And I go, yeah, that's right. I'm getting a kitten from you. And she goes, I got 3 left. And she brought them in a box, and they were gray, black, and white with blue eyes. And, and all baby cats got blue eyes, but the mother was sitting on the bed next to the box with the babies. And I started talking to the mother and going, you're the sweetest mother. Those are the cutest, most beautiful babies. You should be so proud of yourself. And you're so beautiful. And and I see, and I didn't, I'm dreaming. So I don't know that I'm dreaming. But I dreamed. So I had a ritual or a dream in 2001 about Maria Orsic with the gray, black, and white, blue-eyed cat. And 10 years later, in the ritual, she's like, you tell Deanna I'm the Missouri River goddess, and you dreamed about her cat. And I don't even know. I don't even know if she has a cat at all. I don't even never have met this woman. She worked like on the other side of the office. I barely knew her name. I'm like, man, and obviously Maria knew if I was going to do this that I needed, more than that. So she gave me this dream. And this is so crazy. Deanna came out and picked up the box of the 3 kittens. And when she did, she bent down, and I had the box like in my lap. So when she bent down to pick up the kittens, like her face came next to mine. And I felt like the same power from the dream 10 years ago. Maria did all this. And I heard Deanna's thoughts. And, just to finish the dream, it was crazy because it was all, I'll just finish the dream. So I tell Deanna, okay, I want this one. I want this, kitten. And she's like, okay, let's get to work. She's like, that you can just walk right past there and you can just get to work. And this is, this is like a myth. This is when it becomes like mythological, and this is part of Maria's art. Because this would never make sense in real life. Because she's in her work uniform, and so am I. And we have to go to work. We have to be on time. And she's like, do you know if you just cut through my backyard and you go, right past, that little shopping district, that little strip mall. She's like, you'll just be right at work. You could just walk and I'll just meet you. And no bullshit. I got lost. And I was like in these little shops and they were like, you could go like out our back door and into this other shop and it will like lead you through that medical building and then you'll be there. And I'm going and I'm getting lost and getting frustrated. And it was like the Franz Kafka book, The Trial, where they never charge him and never tell him what he did. I can't get out. I can't find my way to work out of this. And check this out. So I'm in like a factory. And the guy's like, dude, listen, I'll just let you out of this window in the back and you'll be right there. He's like, I swear the back of our building backs up to your building. And he's like, but we'll have to walk all the way around to go to the door. So I could just open this window. We do it all the time. I could just open this window and you can get out. And when I stepped out of the window, I like dropped what I had and it like echoed like I was on a movie set. And I was in like a dirty New York alley. Just like miserable bums sitting on the street. And it just like freaked my mind out so much that I just woke up and was like, what the hell? And the next ritual, I was like, damn, lady, that was a crazy dream. You did that? And she said, yeah. Now go tell Deanna the whole thing. The old dream, the new dream, and the Missouri River Goddess. And as I told you, I told her the whole thing, and she said, I'll tell you one thing. She said, did you know this? About 6 months ago, she said, Joe, I do have a black, white, and gray cat. Because also one thing Maria told me to tell her was that the black, white, and gray cat. Okay, see, any of this could have been wrong. I swear on my own true essence soul. I swear I did not know this lady. All I knew, I didn't even know her last name. I just knew her name was Deanna because of her badge. And we would walk by each other sometimes and say hi or good morning. I would see her in the break room sometimes. She'd be setting up the food for like, someone's birthday or something. And she was very nice. And we were about the same age. And so I told her the entire dream. And she goes, well, either this really is supernatural. She said, I don't know what to say. And she said, I don't know what to call it. She said, but I'm pretty sure you didn't know that I do have a black, white, and gray cat. Did I say? Maria said to tell her the black, white, and gray cat came from her ancestors who are watching her from the astral plane and rooting for her to break the cycle of eternal return and escape from the matrix. All right, I told her and she was like, what? And she goes, well, first of all, I don't know if you knew this, and she was looking at me like, this is too fucking weird. She said, first of all, my cat did just show up one night at my back door. And that's why I didn't know if she was fixed or not. And 3-4 months later, she was pregnant, and that's why I had 5 kittens, but 2 of them my sister took, and I had 3 kittens left. She said, well, I don't know if somehow you knew that. I said, Deanna, you know I don't know you. I don't know you at all. I didn't know nothing about your kittens. And she said, I believe you. She said, I don't know what to say. She said, but it really has me thinking. She said, you know, you saying my life has been repeating. It reminds me of a movie. She said, she mentioned, I don't know, some movie that I didn't know. And I said, yeah, I know, there's lots of movies. There's lots of movies talking about this. Nietzsche talked about it. I said, but I'm a dumb Hoosier. I didn't know anything about Nietzsche. I got this from Missouri River Goddess. You know, take it or leave it, believe me or not. But that was the proof. And I love each person making an effort. May Maria herself bless you with our real energy and big respect, recognition, and hail to the beautiful blonde mother, the beautiful little lady, the magic mother, the magic water goddess of creativity, the muse from the frequency of above, the beautiful muse from above. We love you so much. And Lou, without Lou and Donna, we don't have these experiences. Deepest, 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 deepest gratitude. We love you, Lou.